We didn't see this one coming, not in the least bit. I get a call Saturday morning from somebody else at the buyer who lets me know that our point person, the guy that we developed this great relationship with that was doing just a wonderful job, got home from a long week away, including visiting with us, walked into his home and had an argument with his wife, and she shot him.
Welcome back to another episode of IAG's War Room, in the trenches, M&A stories, where M&A experts talk about real-world battles of selling businesses, how they ultimately won and closed the deal, or as we like to say, won the war. I'm Joe Lieberman, Senior Managing Director of IAG. Our guest today is Tim Marlo, Senior Managing Director of IAG. Today's segment is called Murder and Acquisitions. It's a good one. So let's go to war. Tim, how did you choose M&A as a career?
Good morning, Joe. I chose M&A coming out of school. I went through undergraduate school and right into M&A. It was a great opportunity at the time, which is 1986, a long time ago now. It's different every day. You get to meet a lot of people and you really get to impact lives.
And what was the path out of college?
Started at the bottom, learned the business from the bottom up. Back then, you started out as an associate, worked your way up to a vice president, then on to managing director ultimately. My first stop was about 17 years at a major investment bank. Did mostly M&A, but also had a chance to do some other investment banking activities, including IPOs, public debt, private equity. So got a nice, well-rounded education early on in my career and then took off from there.
Today, we've titled our topic Murders and Acquisitions. And there is a little bit of that, both of them, as I understand. Why don't you help set up the story and we'll get into it.
A few years ago, we had a client in the energy distribution business. Great business run by a widow who took it over from her husband a few years prior. She got to the point in her life where it was time to move on and do some other things. We engaged with her and went through the entire preparation process. Great lady, great business. I've been in this particular segment before, so I knew exactly where to go. I knew who was going to be interested, prepared all the information that you generally do in situations like this. We had high hopes that we could get something in the mid to high teens, and the market was hot at the time, and we were very positive that we could create a competition in the marketplace. Not every sale that we go through is prime for an auction, so to speak, but this one definitely was.
So describe real quick what's an auction.
Auction is you run the buyers through a very strict process. You send them the information. You say you have so much time to ask questions of me, and at the end of that time frame, we request from you a very short 2-page indication of interest that says that you're interested at this value and some other terms and the fact that you got financing and those types of things. It's very non-binding.
You do that when you're confident you've got enough interest that you're not just going to get one or two people to respond.
You throw a party when you think that
People are going to come.
Are going to come. You don't throw a party when you don't think anybody's going to come. We were very confident that this is something that a lot of folks wanted. We get through the first couple of months of the marketing process. 6 really qualified buyers fall out the bottom of this funnel. 5 of them were a little bit better than we expected, and 1 was a lot better than we had expected. At that point, we're very excited about the process that we would run. Everything's going smoothly. What's going to happen? Is diligence going to go bad? What are we going to find about the company? Or what are we going to find out about the buyer?
Skeletons in the closet, right?
We're always looking for, what's going to go wrong here. So we go through the diligence process. That involves the buyer coming in and doing all the work that needs to be done, whether it's accounting, regulatory, legal, all of those things. This process takes a few months to get through because there's a lot to learn about a company, even from somebody who's inside the industry. And usually that diligence is even more stringent because they know exactly what to look for. But we're ready. She's running a nice business, and we go through the process and a few months of diligence. And we're getting down to the end. We have what we think is going to be our last meeting with the buyer. The buyer is a public company, and they have one one gentleman at the head, and he's got support staff doing a lot of the work for him, but he's really the point person, and he's got a great rapport now with my client, and he's just a really, really positive person. My client's getting really excited that we're turning the business over to somebody that is going to do great things, not only give her the money that she wants for retirement, but do great things for the business going forward, her employees, etc. So we wrap up what we think is going to be our last diligence meeting. Everybody's excited that this is over with, and the only thing that we're waiting for at this point is for their deal team to go back to their board and say, we're ready to go. Let's pull the trigger, so to speak. We're starting to get excited. We finally see the end after 6 months into the process, and she's tired. I mean, that's a lot of
It's
work, and there's a lot of
seller's
emotions.
fatigue.
There's a lot of emotions that go into my husband built this business, and now I'm selling it, letting go of it, and turning it over, and so there's a lot going on emotionally with her, and I completely understand. So we all get home on Friday. I talked to her some more. I didn't warn her at that time, but I do warn sellers along the way, as I know you do, that when things are smooth, you just know something's going to happen, because that's just the nature of this business, is that stuff happens. But we didn't see this one coming, not in the least bit. So I get a call Saturday morning from somebody else at the buyer who lets me know that our point person, the guy that we developed this great relationship with, that was doing just a wonderful job, got home from a long week away, including visiting with us, walked into his home and had an argument with his wife, and she shot him. This is a first time a real bullet came into anything that I've ever been associated with in the business world. So how do you react? I mean, you feel awful that there's a loss of life.
Wow.
And it's a horrible situation, and you just kind of freeze. Now we're deciding
So we have a key figure on the buy side who's got a board that is, I assume, part of the big decision making, and he is no longer of this world.
he's no longer with us.
Wow.
I didn't find it appropriate to reach out to anybody else at the company at this point, because they're going through all kinds of things. And I reached out to my client, and she's of course devastated, not because of the deal, but because she knew this person even before this process. They've been in the same industry for a long time, and they've been social and knew each other, not as well as they knew each other the day before, but it's still heart-wrenching to her to see this loss of life, as it was to me. But she was really, really taken aback at that point.
How
And
long did it take you to get from A to Z, then back to A?
well, A to Z is probably 6 months,
Wow.
and now we hit the reset button. What do we do? What do we do now?
What do you do now?
First course of action is indeed going back to the company and saying, let's salvage this. Let's figure it out. And they said, absolutely. They were completely on board. We love the deal. We're going to make this happen. So we sat there, and I don't like sitting there. Nothing good happens when you're sitting there. A week or two passes, and they finally come back and tell us that they're not going to move forward. No explanation. One's probably not necessary, but no explanation given.
Okay. So then what did you do?
So more difficult discussions with my client. Her reaction is, I guess we go back to the second highest bid, and I guess I don't get the number that I thought I was going to get, and I just figure out how to live with less. And I said, that's one option. Our other options, given the strict process that we ran and the interest and the circumstances around the number one buyer not performing, I think we can go back to all five of the other parties and relay the information and see what all five say. No reason to limit ourselves to just the second high bid at this point. Again, there's no playbook, so we're moving along, trying to do the best thing for our client. So that's what we did. We went back to all five of them and said, this was the deal. All cash, a little higher than where you were.
How did you explain why you were back?
It's usually very difficult to go back to the group that didn't win the deal and say the buyer didn't perform.
Yeah, and not eat crow.
have them say, well, we knew we knew we were the best buyer the whole time. You didn't pick us, and so you're right. You go back with your head in hand, I guess. But this one was a little bit easier to explain because it's industry news and everybody's in the industry. And once I told them who the buyer was, then everybody went, okay, got it. We understand. So we had some discussions with all five, and thankfully for us, one of them said, we were very, very excited, not about the circumstances, but the fact that the deals come back. And so after we were told we didn't win, they said, we wish we had offered more. They literally stepped up and to all the terms that we had agreed to with the first buyer. Surprise, yes. Relief, yes.
What were the terms? Typically, my experience, you get a large organization, maybe PE funded, whoever it might be, and they're looking at different structures. There might be equity rollover, there might be a seller note, there might be earnouts. How did you match that?
This one was relatively easy. Most of these buyers were well financed, whether they're public companies or large private companies. They all had the cash to do the transaction. The initial offer was all cash in the low 20s. All the secondary offers were in the mid to high teens, all cash. Really not a lot of terms to talk about.
No banks to go through. This was internal funding.
This is all internal funding. From that standpoint, we were very fortunate that the larger buyers were showing a great interest in our client, who had a nice little stranglehold on the part of the country where they were. And you'll see that when big companies want to get into a geographic market, they will pay what they need to pay in order to get the deal done. But we were very fortunate that we were able to push up this second buyer, $4 or $5 million from where they were, which was a big percentage jump for sure. So we move on. Loss of life, of course, but we move on, and we persevered.
We do have a saying, we don't necessarily like to say it, but deals always die at least a few times before they're closed. I don't think I've ever heard a story where a buyer dies. As sad as that is, there's a little irony to it.
There is. Our job is to do what's best for our client, and I think we did that in this instance. We were surprised, we were sad, we were all kinds of things, but in the end, our client was very happy with finally getting what she deserved.
Moving on. So now you're a little more geared up. You've got some protective shield ready for the next battles.
Yep. We avoided that shrapnel, and we're moving on.
All right. Well, good story. In the long run, we fought and we won. Congratulations to you, and on to the next one.